Hey everyone, James Labrie from Dream Theater, and you're listening to or watching the podcast Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian. Enjoy this. These guys are extremely informative. I love their dialogue. I love their interpretation of the songs, who and what we are, what we were going after. They're very accurate in their interpretations and descriptions, and I just think this is a great show, and these guys are doing a stand-up stellar job. So once again, enjoy Talking into Infinity with JT and Brian.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Talking into Infinity, a Dream Theater-centric podcast. I am your host, John. We are live on Facebook, YouTube, talkingintoinfinity.com, and the CMSRumblepage.com. We are at those four locations every other Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you are watching on YouTube, don't forget to click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell so that you are notified every time we go live. Without further ado, let me bring on my esteemed co-host and one of my very best friends. He's got a face for radio, Mr. Brian Hendrickson. How is it going, man?
It's going absolutely amazing. How about you?
Well, it's good. First, we have to do our usual disclaimer. John's shitty internet watch 2023 is still in effect. So if my video goes wonky, the audio will be fine. So if you're watching live, just wait for my camera to catch up. The audio version is always fine. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, I'm good, but I have been running around like my ass is on fire for about the last half hour. So this is it's actually nice to sit down and kind of just relax for a change. So looking forward to tonight. This is kind of a weird night for us. We decided we were not going to have a set topic. We were just kind of, going to kind of wing it and just talk about whatever comes to mind. It's basically like the fan hangout, which we'll be doing at the end of December this year again. But yeah, I mean, we went to a show this week. We had the new Mammoth WVH record drop last week. So, it's going to be a good one, man. What's been new with you? I didn't get to see you last time we did a show, so.
Well, I just saw you 2 days ago, so.
Yeah. Well, we didn't talk much. We had some Twisted Tea and watched a kick-ass concert. So
yeah, that's cool. It's been like 25 years. Pantera reference. I did not get a chance to listen to that, but I really want to because you had some killer guests on there, and I'm going to dive into that album. Like, what I want to do is dive into the album, and then I want to dive into the deep dive you guys did afterwards and hear that. So
nice.
So everything's been pretty good. I've been gigging here and there and whatnot, and I was supposed to. I didn't even tell you this. So I just found out today I am not going to New Jersey on Saturday like I'd originally planned. So apparently when Matt emailed the agent we were playing it, he actually emailed me only and not the agent. So
wow. Okay.
So we literally just found out today. Because a lot of times with these gigs, like, we literally don't get the directions or anything until like 3 days before, which, who cares as long as we kind of know the city and, like what time we play, basically, as long as we have that info. But, so that's not happening. So I will be in town this weekend, I guess, and I have no idea what I'm going to get up to.
Well, we're having people over on Saturday, actually starting tomorrow night. Our first guest just arrived 10 minutes ago. I'm making homemade Alfredo from scratch.
Oh, nice.
So, there'll be a big fat Italian meal and a bunch of mellow Lima people hanging out, having some drinks and relaxing on our deck. If you would like to make,
like,
an hour and 10-minute drive.
Friends, family? Who else coming?
No, well, it was supposed to be. We'll get back into something more interesting after this, but no, there were supposed to be about 20 people, and then about half of them backed out. They all wanted to go all around Cleveland and hit the flats and go crazy, and most of us were like, we're not really into that. Like, We just want John to cook a huge goddamn meal, and then we sit around playing Cards Against Humanity, getting drunk.
Oh, nice.
So, hang out on our deck and whatnot, which is beautiful, and kind of enjoy the nice weather while we still have it. And so it's really relaxed. It's basically all of Steph's best friends and my stepkids, and it should be really cool. So
is this a thing you do? This making pasta from scratch, or is this a first time endeavor here?
No, I haven't quite nailed down making the pasta from scratch because it takes forever, but I do make the sauce from scratch.
Nice.
So that, I dropped over $130 at the Italian grocery store today, put it that way. I'm making Italian beef sandwiches tomorrow night. They're not the right way, they're the generic way, but it's close enough. They all think it's great. I get annoyed that it's not the real way. I'm kind of snob that way when I cook. But the Alfredo, is definitely from scratch. It's the American way, not the Italian way. But Alfredo's technically not Italian. I think it's Roman, if you want to be technical. Okay. I can get into the whole backstory, but this is not the show for that. But yeah, I do as much as I can from scratch, and people really dig it. I actually have a bunch of crab legs in the freezer, so I'm going to boil those and crack them and remove the meat, and I'm going to have crab Alfredo for a few people who want that. So,
nice.
So home cooking and a bunch of good friends. It'll be cool. So. Chastity Crawley is checking in. Always good to see you, Chastity. She says, gonna listen while I'm driving home, so I'm not gonna be super active because that is dangerous and illegal, but excited to at least listen to you guys. Chastity, here is a little known fact. It is not illegal to comment back and forth on YouTube with Talking Into Infinity. That is actually in the I believe you're in Utah. It's in the state code. You can do that technically if you're commenting with us.
You just have to keep two knees on the steering wheel at all time. That's all you need. Just ask Matt.
Drive like you're eating.
Right.
Kale McLeish says morning, and then he says, I feel like I should make you a jingle for John's shitty internet watch. Kale, we are always up for a jingle. Man. Let's do it. So, all right. So let's get into the music stuff here, man. So a couple weeks ago, for those of you who have not seen it, I posted an instant reaction video to my experience at the opening night of the Pantera tour from Burgettstown, Pennsylvania. So if you guys haven't seen that, it's about 20 minutes long, but it was, I think it was like 1:40 in the morning when I got home, and I jumped online and gave my review. So if you want to hear all about the Pantera show, I did do a little mini off show, just specifically for that. And so that's something we did. As I said, the Mammoth record came out on Friday, Mammoth WVH 2, which I'm a huge fan. I know, Brian, you're a big fan too. And that leads us to where we were at on Tuesday evening here in Cleveland. Brian and I actually went to the Jacobs Pavilion at Nautica, it's called, and we saw, which to me, the bands were in complete reverse orders. They should have been. But it was Mammoth WVH, then Sevendust, then Alter Bridge. And full disclosure, I did not stay for Alter Bridge because I am not a fan. I don't dislike Alter Bridge, but I just don't get into them. They're boring on stage to me, and especially after watching Mammoth and Sevendust just absolutely rip the fucking place apart. I was like, yeah, there's really kind of no point to this. So, I'll let you start. So, talk a little bit about Alter Bridge first, because since I have really no input on that, we'll get to the other two bands after you tell us a little bit about Alter Bridge.
Miles Kennedy voice, absolutely amazing. He sounded in best form maybe I've ever heard him. The new song, Fable of a something son, I can't remember the title off track, that they just started playing. Man, his voice, oh my gosh, just crystal clear as a bell. I thought it was a great set. I mean, the thing is, let's just be honest. Even Sevendust, okay, their average, fan age that grew up is what, mid-40s by now? At least?
It's basically like me.
Right. Okay. So, and same with Alter Bridge, kind of in the same. I think Alter Bridge came out around 2002 or 3 or something, somewhere around there. So they might. When was the first Sevendust record?
97, I want to say.
Okay, so they've even been, technically as a band, they've been around longer, but, as we know, Alter Bridge is basically Creed minus Scott Stapp.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great show. I mean, towards the end of the night, a lot of people were leaving, and I think it has to do with kind of that age group also, it's like, all right, if you got there at 6:30, it's already after 10 at that point. You know what I mean? It's just a lot of, I mean, it's great bands, but a lot of people just can't sit there and hang around for 4.5 hours. I don't care what it is. You know what I mean? So I kind of felt a little bad in that it was starting to thin out towards the end, but it may have been that way no matter who played. I thought they just sounded great. There were a couple cool acoustic things. Miles did his song just by himself, and then he was joined on Mark where they just played. Mark played acoustic guitar and Miles sang.
Mm-hmm.
There was one switch up. I can't remember the name of the song where they actually had Tremonti sing vocals on, and he does.
Yeah.
He was it Let It Burn maybe.
My brother texted me about that because he wasn't aware that Tremonti could sing that well and that Miles could play guitar that well.
Yeah, well, both are actually. Miles has always been a ridiculous guitar player, but Tremonti's voice, if you listen to his solo albums, and he fully admits, he's way more comfortable after, I think there are 3 or 4 he's done now. And a couple, so 1 or 2 of the Alter Bridge albums, Mark actually does sing on lead on a song, but this was not one he normally did lead on. I thought he sounded great.
Yeah, well, dude, he's doing a Christmas album this year. He's doing like Sinatra stuff. I mean, it's his voice is actually incredible. And full disclosure, I've seen him solo live before, and it was awesome. Like that, I enjoyed. But it's like more my style because it's a lot heavier.
Yep.
So that is more my style. But
yeah, it was Burn It Down for Kale. Okay, I don't know if that's what I said, but yeah, I mean the thing with Walter Bridge, and I understand kind of what you're saying. They can kind of lull you into the mid-tempo-y. They get a little 70s rockish, and like you said, if you've already gone through 2 full bands, with the energy that those first 2 have, and yeah, I know they don't jump around a lot on stage. Miles is he's always said, that's not my, I think he tried it at one point, and I think he said it was his mom and dad were like, yeah, don't do that anymore. I think he tried the swing in the mic stand and all that craziness, and he's like, that's just not who I am. I mean, he probably does a little more of the frontman thing when he does the Slash stuff. But
not really.
No, okay.
No, dude. Sorry to cut you off. He does a little bit, but he really does focus on the vocals a lot. Which when you're that good, you don't have to do all that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But he doesn't really play guitar with Slash, right?
No, he doesn't play at all.
Not at all. Okay, but
no,
so
not a minute. Yeah.
He's fully admitted he loves playing guitar and he's glued into that.
Yeah.
And yeah, man. I mean, I just think it's. I think it was even Miles that said at one point, he's like, this tour is like everybody basically comes out here and it's like, geez, everyone's so on their game. They're all trying to one up each other, but not doing it in a douchey way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's it's a reminder of geez, man, you can't slip up for 5 seconds because the talent's, and he's fully on record of his opinion of Wolfgang. He's like, I think it was on Eddie Trunk at one point. He said something like, do you ever give him any advice? And he's like, what would I possibly tell him,
Right.
I mean, he would basically said, if he has any questions or if he wants to, I've maybe bounced some things off him he's asked me about, but he's like, there's not a thing I can tell this guy,
yeah.
Other than if he's asking for advice, because everything he's doing is just, but anyway, yeah, I just thought, the humbleness of all of 3 bands, and they're all great friends, and there's no pretension of being rock stars, and they're just about the songs and the albums and the performance. They just really don't care about any other aspect of any of it, and that's something I think that's kind of prevalent more now than it was in the 80s, for sure, and even probably into the 90s. But these guys are all older now, they're other than Wolfgang. But yeah, man, I mean, I just thought it was a great. I mean, so we paid. Well, I told you the tickets were $60. They were actually $12 a piece. No. No, but
Nice.
but it's funny because we always kind of talk about how insane concerts are getting, and it's literally $60 to see those 3 bands. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
that's just a bargain upon bargains. I mean, you can't beat that. 20, even if you hate each band or whatever, or hate 2 of the 3, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just thought it was a great deal, and it was perfect because we parked, right by the highway. So we walked over there. We got out of there fine, and I don't know, man. You were there. The weather was awesome.
Yeah, it was a perfect night.
And Wolfgang started early, and he did a great set, and Sevendust did what they do, and Alter Bridge just came out, tore it up, man. I mean, I thought it was a great night of shows, and it's going to be hard for a long time to honestly top a concert like that with all three bands. Where I'm just like, yeah, it was, nothing bad. So
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. And it's, I mean, it's common knowledge that, all those guys are like friends, with each other. And, Wolfgang played on a Tremonti record and, those guys all know each other and they're friends and stuff. And like you said, they're trying to one up each other, but in like the best, like, cause those are always the best shows. Like back when I was doing my band APG, and even Gatlin and stuff like that, we would have bands that we would play with kind of regularly, and they were really talented. And it was a total blast to go up there and just try and blow the other guys off the stage, but not in like a dick way. It's like, cause
Right.
they were going to bring it too. And basically, for a $10 ticket, like, the crowd would get three bands just absolutely just erupting as hard as possible. And it was, people loved it. And that's what we got, like you said the other night, for $60.
Yep.
Which was a total steal, man. And what made it even better was that not only did you get those bands kicking ass that hard, but they were also the set times were not your usual set times. Like, when you have three bands, basically the opener's going to get what, 30 minutes, maybe 35. Well, Wolfgang got 45. The next band's going to get about 40, you think. Well, Sevendust got 50 to 55. So you got really long sets from the first two bands. And, to me, it said a lot that Wolfgang was going on first because, Sevendust has been around a lot more, granted. But, right now, Wolfgang is way more in the public eye. I would say, he just put out a record. He's been on tour and is on tour with Metallica. And he was like, yeah, I'll go first. Like there was no ego about it. There was no, because I really thought Sevendust would go first, and when I found out that wasn't the case, it was like, wow, man, and that to me was just so cool. And like you said, for $60 to see those three bands, and especially to get a lot of the first two, and Alter Bridge still did their full set and everything, from what I heard. That's just you can't beat that. I mean, before fees, the tickets were $49.50, which, if you take the fees out, $50 for those three bands, like, come on, dude. Like, when are you going to get a value like that? It just doesn't happen. Even I mean, hell, I'll do it one further and just, bring up the show I'm going to in November. I have tickets for Wolfgang's headlining show in November in Columbus, and they were like, before fees, they were like $26 or something.
Oh wow!
So
I didn't know that existed anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I get to see him in a small venue, headlining for like an hour and 45 minutes for $26. I mean, with fees, it was actually more like 41. The fees on that were ridiculous. But that notwithstanding, I mean, $26 to see a band of that quality is just outrageous. And then, like you said, $60 to see three bands of this quality is just equally. And the thing that I thought was the most cool was, I mean, the place wasn't full, but I'd say it was about 80% full. Would you agree with that? Like,
I think that might be a high estimate.
Okay, well,
I would say 65 to 70, and that's being kind.
Well, you're also an old fart, and you have cataracts, so so sorry, I couldn't resist an age
The,
joke.
the
there.
floor definitely was not 80% full. That was
No.
like 35% full.
Yeah, no, I when I looked around the stands and stuff, at least by the time we left, I thought it was about 80%. But I thought the energy level the whole time was way high, which is another thing I thought was cool. So you could tell people are actually listening to Wolfgang and they're still listening to Sevendust, and so I thought that part was really cool. I mean, like you said, the whole night was just really, really, it was a great show, and it is going to be hard to top that. I think like the last time that I was at a show at Nautica is the only thing I can really compare it to. Excuse me, because I saw Death Angel followed by Anthrax followed by Slayer, and that's just an unbelievable lineup right there.
Right.
But yeah, this is going to be a difficult one to top. And I was getting texts from my friends about how awesome Alter Bridge was, and my brother had video of what's that? God, what's the Alter Bridge song that Miles does? Is like, and who will be there to
watch
save
over
me?
you.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, and I just that's the one Alter Bridge song I love, the acoustic version, because Miles just. I hate to use this term; it just sounds so cheesy, but he really shines on that song. Like Miles's voice, you're right. He he is just absolutely probably the best singer out there right now. And I've seen him a number of times with Slash, at least probably 8 or 9 times with Slash, because my wife, Slash is her favorite musician on the planet. And he absolutely kills that gun stuff. And, the Alter Bridge stuff, obviously, let's, say it how it is, is musically easier for him because it's not in that constant high screaming register. So, the fact that he was spot on is not surprising. He's just the consummate professional. And I got to tell you, man, like I don't care what that guy ever does, because I will always have a soft spot in my heart. Like, I don't know if I've ever told this story on the show, but Miles Kennedy recorded a voicemail for me to play for my wife as I was asking her to marry me. So Chris Aiken, who you guys may have seen on the last episode or episodes in the past here on the show, he interviews a ton of people. He's been in the business a long time, and he actually is, acquaintances with Miles because he's interviewed him a bunch of times for his different projects. And when I had told Chris that I was getting engaged to my wife, he knew that Miles is her favorite singer, so he hit him up like, hey, would you record a little message for them? And it's on Facebook somewhere. I can repost it on the show page if I can find out how to do that, because I'm a technological moron. But the voicemail is like, hi, Stephanie, Miles Kennedy here, and I just found out, and apparently you just found out that you are engaged. And the message goes on for a bit. But yeah, I played that. Like, I got a whole bunch of our friends and family at a restaurant in Lima where my wife is from. It's like 15, 16 of us. And I was playing the voicemail in her ear, and I had the ring box in my hand open, and she was listening to the message, and she was like, oh my God, haha, so I guess I'm engaged to Miles Kennedy, huh? And I was like, well, I said, well, no, not exactly. I said, but I can't sing as well as him, but what would you say if I said get engaged to me? And she looked down, and then she saw the ring, and she's like, oh my God, but yeah, no, I'm engaged to Miles. But yeah, that's how cool he was, and is, I should say. He recorded that message so that I, to help with my engagement, which that is, he doesn't know me. And, Steph had met him at an Alter Bridge show. Prior to that, she went with Aiken, but, he didn't know her, and he just recorded that message for us. And I just, things like that, like my James LeBrie stories and stuff, while I always love James, like Miles I will always carry water for Miles, because he's just that good of a dude. You know what I mean? So even though I'm not a huge fan of Alter Bridge by any means, like I'll always support him because I know the music's good and people love him, and Miles is great. So
didn't you play that at your reception or whatever?
Yeah, we played that, and then also the Sammy Hagar message, because
that's right.
Yeah, one of our other buddies, Sammy Hagar, recorded a congratulatory message about our engagement. So it was our wedding was pretty badass, and our engagement was cool. She gets Miles Kennedy basically getting us engaged, and then I get Sammy Hagar congratulating me on getting engaged. Like it was pretty awesome. So
I do have to go back and answer Kale's question. He said, "Did we get Sin After Sin or This Is War?" It was actually This Is War.
Okay.
Which I wish we'd gotten the other one, but I like that a little bit better. But it was still cool. Those are both two from the new album.
Okay. Johan Alexanderson, good to see you, man, by the way. He says, there's some video of Miles playing a fusion solo and some guitar competition in the early 90s. Technique-wise, Slash has nothing on him. Yeah, dude, even Slash has said that like he's a better guitar player, and Kale mentioned it too. He said it's funny though, Slash has gone on record as saying that Miles is a better guitarist, and that Miles gave him a lesson or two regarding World on Fire, or recording World on Fire. Sorry. And yeah, that's all true. I mean, Miles like would blow people away in guitar competitions and everything, and he's got that voice. It's just he's just an incredible talent, man. And then he's in a band with Tremonti, who himself is a phenomenal singer and guitar player. Like that band is loaded with talent. And I sometimes I wonder, Brian, if for me I don't have a little bit of butthurt where Alter Bridge is concerned, because I hate Creed. And I know people that were vice presidents in their fan club that said that Scott Screed, you dickhead. Scott Stapp is one of the biggest dickheads on the planet. And I never liked the music, and then to find out that the singer is just a complete jerk, so when I heard, it's Creed with a new singer, I was like, oh, fuck those guys. So Oh, I got to get that out of my
Yeah,
out
I
of my
mean,
head.
there's stuff like I mean, one of the highlights every time they play live is Blackbird, and it's super cool because he'll start it out and he starts playing the Beatles' Blackbird, Blackbird.
Right.
He starts playing on the guitar, and then they go into the real song, and there's just two very distinct killer parts that him and Tremonti are intricately playing, and they've started doing that a little bit more on some of the newer stuff. And Mark is always saying like, yeah, I want Niles to play more. We want to do more things where we trade solos off and on, And but yeah, I mean, he's just a great musician. The only thing, my only criticism is he might need to go eat a cheeseburger or something. I like the dude's. He's always been a rail, and he's like one of those guys that takes in ridiculous care of his body because he has to because of his instrument stuff, which I totally respect. But I don't know, man. Just go eat like a steak and just put on like 7 pounds. That's all you got to do, Miles.
Well, my fat ass is never going to tell somebody you should go gain some weight.
Yeah.
So I'm jealous of Miles Kennedy for multiple reasons. So
yeah,
so.
Just like 6 pounds is fine. That's all you need.
What a random number.
Right.
You need to gain 7.12 pounds, man. All right, Robert Husted, good to see you, man. Says you got to admit, John, With Arms Wide Open is kind of a banger of a song. No. If you're serious, no. And if you're kidding, no.
I think the LOL kind of tells us where we are there.
Oh, well, I don't even joke about Creed. I can't stand that goddamn band. When they were huge, I was like, damn it, why couldn't it be somebody I could at least listen to a little bit?
All right, before we go too far, I have to bring up something about the show too. So
okay. Oh, I think I know what you're going to bring up. I think I know what you're going to bring up.
Right as Sevendust is starting,
the concert Gestapo.
The seat Nazi.
The seat Nazi. Yep.
So to set the stage, and it's pretty hilarious because I don't know if I had told you or Bob, a buddy of mine who I just kind of became friends with was at the show too, and he was sitting all the way at the very top row on the opposite side. So was it section 6 or 4 or whatever the opposite one we were in? Thieves in 4.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just talking blah blah blah, and I was like, well, I just kind of want to get down closer. He's like, yeah. He's like, you can't even sit in those first 2 seats. And I was like, oh really? He's like, yeah. I said, oh okay, because I was wondering because those weren't, I didn't see them for sale. So I'm like, we noticed Sevendust is about to start, so I'm like, all right, let's hurry up and run back over here. And so I go and sit down. Well, it's literally our entire row, right? It's like every seat is full. I don't know, what was there, 20 people to a row or something?
Yeah, and we were third row, by the way. We were third row.
Yeah, third row.
So there were only 2 rows in front of us.
So 2 rows,
which were empty.
They're empty, but those are supposed to be allegedly for handicapped people. Now, I understand the logic of, hey, we're going to have to check tickets if people from, the general admission. So what is general admission? The last 10 rows or something? Roughly, do you know?
I do not know.
Okay, let's say for the sake of argument, the last 5 rows are general admission. And those tickets are considerably cheaper, like $20 or something, right?
Yeah.
Well, like half the cost. So they don't want those people coming down and sitting on those seats that are, $50, $60 or whatever. I get that. But I'm literally like 18 inches like moving forward, right? Just so that like you and Bob can have some room and I can have some room. And this chick comes over like, can I see your ticket? And I'm like, well, I said, I'm sitting right there actually, right behind her. She's like, well, that's your seat, so you have to go sit there. And I'm like, well, we're crammed in like sardines here, and do I need to go get security? And I'm like, are you serious? So yeah, this chick was not having me literally like sit, barely 1.5 feet, in front of us in an entire row that's completely empty.
Well, and also, like, does she not think that, like, if someone shows up and says, hey, you're in my seat, you're not going to move back, 2.5 feet and get in your actual seat? I mean, it was really stupid. And she was pulling that Nazi shit with a bunch of people, because I ran into a couple of buddies of mine that, they were actually there because they had backstage passes. They, one of them, like, they actually own a vodka company here in town called Voodoo Vodka. And one of them, his name is, well, I know as Brad Coachman because I went to high school with him, but it's BC Coachman. He played in I Empire. He was in Dark New Day for a minute. He was in Nonpoint, whatever. And, they were just kind of hanging out, waiting for Alter Bridge, and then they were going to go backstage and whatnot. So they were kind of like standing, leaning up against one of the rails. And there's barely anybody walking around. They're not blocking anybody, whatever. And this seat Nazi,
Yep.
I was like, get out of the aisle, do this. I'm like, you know what? Like, do you have to act this way? Like, if they're not bothering somebody, why do you have to be an asshole? Like, just shut the fuck up and let people sit where they're sitting. You know,
Right.
like, you know, I don't know what these people think. Like, unfortunately, there's probably been too many people that have been assholes about this kind of stuff because
Right.
to me and you, we're like, well, if somebody comes up and says, hey, you're in my seat, we're like, oh, I'm sorry, we're moving. And you go back to where you're supposed to sit. You know, like, we're cool like that. But apparently there's been too many people that have not. But this, and I'll give like the workers at the venue that benefit of the doubt that, okay, they don't know that we're those cool people. But by the same token, she was militant about it in kind of an asshole way.
Well, and there's that other section too, and I can't remember if it was you or Bob and I were talking about this. So in front of us, there's what they call, I guess they call those, quote, box seats, right?
Yeah.
There's like those little boxes with folding chairs in them, and there's like, what, 4 to 8 in each little section?
Yeah.
And it's like a railing around that. Now, I understand keeping people out of there because those are like, you know, $8,500 seats, whatever they charge for those.
Yeah, they have waitresses that come to you and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to go to the...
Right. I mean, it's insane what they charge, but whatever. And it's funny, though, because it reminds you of, like, the old Tower City shows. Like, remember that row of seats? There was, like, that section with the seats, and there was rope around it. So you literally have these people pushed up against the rope, and if it was empty in those seats, like, sometimes there'd be, like, 15 people in those seats that hold, like, I don't know, 50 or 60.
Yeah.
And everyone's pushed up against this rope, but you can't go in and sit in that seat or touch that seat or whatever. It's just beyond ridiculous. And, like, I felt like it was kind of the same thing with her. Like, you know, just like, I don't know. It's like you're saying. I mean, I'm sure it's not the actual workers' fault. They're trained and told to do all this bullshit, whatever. But it's same token. But the funny thing is, of course, by the end of the night, people are coming down there and sitting, and they're just like, well, I'm not going to try to do it now because there's 15 people. You know what I mean? There's 15 people doing it. You know what I mean?
Well, and that was going to be my question. So since I left before Alter Bridge, did anybody come and sit in those 2 rows in front of us after I left?
So, yes, it was probably – they were kind of waiting to feel it out. It's one of those things like, oh, let's see if a couple people go and then more will go, you know. But it wasn't like packed. I mean, there was like 6 people maybe in front of Bob and I.
Well, no, I mean like people that actually had tickets to those seats. Did you see anybody that it was obvious they had tickets? Or were they empty? And to the 2 rows in front of us, like, was it obvious that those people actually bought tickets and only came to see Alter Bridge, or was it like people just kind of sneaking down?
No, they came down. It was pretty clear to me. Yeah. So
God.
At some point, like I said, I mean, you knew that they were just going to be like, what the hell, you know, F it at some point.
Right.
Because if enough people come down there, they're not going to be able to move them all, you know. Plus, it's like the show's, you know, they know there's like 40 minutes left in the show or whatever. Why bother now? But I don't know. The whole thing is just silly to me. And it's like $15 for a freaking Twisted Tea. I'm like, I mean, as happy as I was about the prices for the tickets, I'm like, I was telling my one buddy that I told you about, a new friend of mine. I was just like, they literally try to make this concert experience as miserable as humanly possible for you. It's like to rape you on the parking, just, you know, the stupid seat Nazis, the price of the drinks and stuff. It just annoys me. Like, it doesn't have to be like this.
Well, the only thing I will say to that is that, like, I mean, it was, I think it was actually $16 for the Twisted Tea, but in their defense, it was. But it was a tall boy. It was a 24 ounce, so basically it was like a double. So you're paying like $8 for a Twisted Tea, which, if you kind of think about it, it could be worse. I mean, if you're talking about like a shed show, like if we go to Blossom or something like that, and even Burgettstown, you know, when I went there, which was basically, you know, the equivalent of Blossom, when I got for my stepson, he wanted a double rum and Coke, and it was $34. So you're talking about, for a single rum and Coke, it was $17. And you know they're not, they're measuring that shit. So it's not like they're pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring. Like, I mean, so I was like, holy crap! Like, I could get like a handle of Bacardi for this, man.
3/4.
Hold on a second, I'm cutting you off. Brian's wife is tuned in, and Brian's wife Jill. By the way, love you, Jill. Good to see you, sweetheart. That's the Italian in me calling your wife sweetheart. Look at me being a total goof. Jill says, you turned into a crotchety old man.
Yeah. Minus the turned into.
Wow. All right. Well, okay. So we have officially now crossed into territory where your wife has joined the show. That my wife has joined my other show, so you're one up on me here.
Well, let me make a quick comment here too. So basically, I'm on my way out the door, I think, and she said, that's one of those concerts I actually would have gone to. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
She's like, well, you're listening to them a lot of time. I've heard them, I don't mind them. I'm like, you have never once said that you like Alter Bridge. But I will say, so the way that my my Bluetooth is set up in my car, for whatever reason, every time I hook my phone up, like my iTunes starts playing. So Addicted to Pain, it goes alphabetically. The second it connects, Addicted to Pain by Alter Bridge is the first song that comes on every time I like basically start my car if my phone's plugged in. So I've literally heard the beginning riff of that song, I don't know, 1,200 times at this point. Not counting the times I just play the album itself.
It's the one Creed song you never want to hear again.
Well, it's not Creed Alter Bridge, but still.
Well, sorry.
Yeah. So and of course it's like one of their biggest hits. So it's like I don't know what it was, the fourth song they played or whatever. That night. But of all of the bands and all the times, I actually would have gone to that one. Like, are you serious?
I actually have a quick funny story about what pops up on your Bluetooth when you jump in the car. So I'm being dead serious here. I don't know how the hell this happened, because when I'd got in the car, I went to the grocery store shortly before we started the show, about an hour before. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we got a bunch of people coming over, and I was listening to a Harry Potter book. I was listening to the third Harry Potter book. I've read most of the books, and I'm trying to go through and listen to the audio books. It's like I'm getting to be a fan, and it's interesting to me. So when I shut the car off, I was listening to a Harry Potter book. Okay, so I'm in the Audible app. All right, so I'm not in the music app. I get back in the car, okay, and those of you who have ever listened to the audio version of this show, Talking Into Infinity, you'll get this. I get back in the car, load my groceries. I've loaded my groceries. Get back in the car. I go pulling out of my parking spot, and all of a sudden I hear through the speakers, dude, I hear the opening to New Millennium. I was like, what the shit? And then I'm like, oh my God, this is like the intro to the show. Wait a minute, this is the old. Wait, why did my phone pull up an old episode of Talking Into Infinity? Then I looked down at my display. It pulled up our very first episode. And I have absolutely no idea how or why. And I was like, what the hell is my phone doing? Like, I was literally listening to a book. I don't listen to our show back. The only time I listen to it is on Friday mornings on my way to work. I listen to it to make sure I got the levels right on the audio version, and I turn it off, after about 3 minutes or something. But I was like, what in the hell is my car doing? So yeah, yours plays Alter Bridge 1,200 times in a row, and mine apparently plays us. So,
ladies and gentlemen, if you thought the talk about John making Alfredo fettuccine or whatever was exciting, wait till you hear his story about listening to a Harry Potter audiobook.
Oh my God. Well, I've said many times on the show that I have another podcast. It's a nerd podcast. And so there shouldn't be any surprise that there's nerdy stuff on my phone that I'm listening to. So, Chris Moran, good to see you, man. He says, hey, what's up? It's my birthday today. I am 29 years old. Happy birthday, dude. If Brian could sing worth a fuck, I would sing happy birthday in harmony with him. But, he'll say his voice is blown. He has a gig this weekend, so. Look at it. Discuss Metal Joe. Joseph Friend. John butt dialed his own show. Padding the numbers, are you?
He's also
awesome.
offering to come and run your Ethernet cables everywhere. I think that's a good idea.
Well, yeah, it's because, look, it's John's shitty Internet Watch 2023. That I don't know what the hell's going on, but we do have a friend coming over tomorrow night that has a big drill, and he might just drill a hole in the ceiling above me. Because literally, as I've said many times, the modem and router are directly above me. So it's just I've finally narrowed it down to the building materials in my house. So
hey, if your friend's coming over with a big drill, that's between you and your wife and nobody else, man.
Hey, keep it clean on the show. Keep it clean. So, all right. So we've gotten to Alter Bridge. Let's go backwards and let's by one band. Let's talk about Sevendust. Is there any other way to start talking about Sevendust live than to just reiterate the fact that they are one of the most criminally underrated bands on the planet, both on record and in a live setting, especially in a live setting. They just, I've seen them so many times, and they just absolutely lay waste to everything. They are so fucking good, man. And this time was even kind of an anomaly because I don't know if like Vinny, the bass player, is having health problems or something, but did you notice that he stayed back next to the drum riser the whole show and didn't come up front at all? So
Yeah, I did notice that.
yeah, even with him not coming up there and doing his thing, they were just ungoddamn believable. And first of all, they opened the show with a song they usually close the show with. They opened up with Face to Face, and then they went into Denial, and then they went into Crucify, which is like, if anybody else can think about like 3 bigger bangers for a band to open with for their show than that, go ahead and post it in the comments because I don't think there is. We got to hear Karma, which is an incredibly, incredibly underrated Sevendust song. I love it, and I've never heard it live. It was just, God, they were so freaking good, man. And there's really not much to say because they're always awesome. I mean, I saw them for the first time on their 3rd tour for Animosity, and I've never left. It's like Dream Theater. I've never left a single Sevendust show without going, oh my God, what the hell did I just see, man? They're so goddamn good. Like,
yeah, the one thing they have is a singer with an extremely unique voice that no one else sounds like and no one else ever has, and it's got that depth to it. And it's not a racial thing, but there's almost a gospel tone to his voice too. It's just that deep. I don't know, man. It's just something about you put that over those riffs, and I think you hit on something. I think they're one of those bands. Another band I put in this category is Avatar. That it's just so much better live, and especially like the last few Sevendust albums. I mean, they put out a really kind of a crap ton of albums. The last 5-6 years, they put out like 5 albums which is a lot. And
I hate to cut you. You are way wrong. Their albums are like 2 years apart. Go ahead and look it up. They're like two and a half years apart.
18, 20, 20. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 5 and 8 years. That still seems like a lot.
Oh, all right. Well, I thought it was more than that. So okay. Yeah. So all right. So I stand corrected.
So 4 and 5 years, right? That's a lot. Okay, that's no big deal. But anyway, well, no. Sorry. Wait a minute. One of these is a deluxe album. But anyway, okay, I was off a little bit. But the point being, like, just so much better live, and you feel the energy of the song so much better live. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because some of the kind of stuff kind of does bleed into sounding similar, as any band does who puts out a crap ton of albums, But yeah, man, their energy, I mean, they got a formula too. It's like, I don't know, what's the longest Sevendust song ever? 4.5 minutes, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe once in a while you might get sometimes they have those intros that are borderline on a minute, but yeah, they've got a formula that works. It's like a super heavy, chunky riff. There's a really pretty nice groove to it. Once in a while, they'll do a ballad. Busted Out Angels song. I think they almost always play that. They played that last time I saw them too. That sounds great.
Right.
Angel's Son, whatever this name is, but
Angel's Son. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, great band, man. I mean, I'm on record, and I always have to look it up because I forget the name of it. It's a Cold Day of Memory. That was kind of my introduction to Sevendust. I'd sort of just heard a single here and there.
Really?
And I remember when that album came out, and I think we had like a 4-way discussion going among coworkers about all the songs on there. And it was either you or Bob gave me a copy, and I was just like, holy crap, I love every song on it, man. I thought it was just great.
Wow, Cold Day Memory was your introduction.
Yeah, that was kind of I'd known who they were, but I was sort of like, I don't want to say too old for them, but I kind of was, I kind of missed them when they sort of first came out, you know what I mean?
Well, it's funny because like I would say after the first 4, the self-titled, and then obviously Home, then Animosity, then Seasons. It kind of gets into like the records each have a few great songs, but a lot of stuff that you might not remember. but they're still like really high quality. I think there's only really 2 records that I could look at and say, yeah, I never go back to, and that would be Chapter 7 and Kill the Flaw, which is kind of weird because my brother and I were talking about it last weekend, and Kill the Flaw is his favorite Sevendust record. And I'm like, holy shit. So I'm going to sit down at some point with him and go through the whole thing and be like, man, look, what is it about this that is grabbing you so much? But yeah, of the records, I think the best one they've done since Seasons, before Truth Killer, because I think this new record is awesome. The best one they've done is Cold Day Memory. You know, it opens up a Splinter, and there's a bunch of great songs on there, man. And so you definitely picked a good one. But I mean, I don't know how far back you've dug, but if you have not like really like gotten into the first 4 records, like that's really the beef of, you know, Sevendust.
I really can't do the first album just because there's not enough melody on it.
Really?
So I've kind of skipped that one. But, you know, I have appreciation for Home, and obviously Animosity, I think, it started when they really kind of start taking off.
Well, that's the Sevendust. I think for people that like the heavy stuff and the melodic stuff, Animosity is the record.
Yep.
The first Sevendust album is, I love it because you're right, there's not a ton of melody. It's a lot of the rhythmic, you know, it's a lot of the you know, a lot of the chugging and stuff like that. But it's so, especially at that time, it was so different. And you're like, what the hell, man? It was like, because, and dude, let's be honest. Like, if we're gonna talk about, you know, opening songs on albums, like greatest opening songs on records ever, I would put Black way up there, dude. Yeah. That song, I don't care when I listen to it, what mood I'm in. If you don't want to just like absolutely like Hulk smash your way through a brick wall listening to the Sevendust song Black, you don't have blood pulsing through your veins. I'm firmly convinced, man. Oh, we got a new one. We got a newbie here, Brian. Tom Rister, great to see you, man. Thank you very much for tuning in. He says, nice. I can't believe it. I never knew people besides me loved Dream Theater. Gotta get caught up. Hello from Vermilion, Ohio. Dude, you're not too far from us. I actually work in Lakewood, so close to you there. And Brian's out in I don't know, East BFE.
Yeah, I'm about as far east as he is west.
Yeah, and I'm in Wadsworth, man. So Tom, thank you very much for checking out the show, dude. You've only got 64 episodes to go before tonight. Joseph Wren brings up a good point that I want to pull up here. He says, sit down with Southside Double Wide if you haven't in a while. Yes, it's acoustic, but LaJohn's real live voice is outstanding. Yeah, I cannot agree with that anymore, Joe, than I just can't agree with it anymore. Like, I saw that tour. It was actually the night before I started my job when I used to work with Brian. So there's a little factoid, Brian. I started at CVS on September 17th of 2003, and I saw the acoustic Sevendust tour on September 16th at the Odeon. September 16th of 2003, I saw the acoustic tour. And yeah, it's LaJohn's voice is really raw. They didn't perfect it, and it's just and the acoustic versions of those songs, like for those songs to have that much fucking power and yet still translate beautifully in an acoustic setting is just testament to how underrated they are as songwriters and the quality of the music and stuff like that. It's, man.
Well, they did that on that other one too, that Time, whatever it's called. I actually bought that one.
Oh yeah, Time Travelers. Yeah. That was. I thought that was cool too. Dude, did I ever tell you the story that Steph and I almost booked them for our wedding reception?
Yeah, you did.
We were so close. For anybody, I'll make this story quick. But so when Steph and I were getting married in 2014, Sevendust were recording it's Time Travelers and Bonfires. They were doing their acoustic record, Time Travelers and Bonfires, and they did like a crowdfunding thing. And for different levels, you get different perks and shit. And to this day, I still kick myself because I think it was like if you donated $250, you got to go hang with them in the studio for an entire day, watch them record, and get like a catered, like home smoked. They had a barbecue guy on site making actual like Georgia barbecue, and like you would have had a barbecue meal with Sevendust while they record. And I didn't do that, but the Steph and I were booking our reception, and the biggest thing that they had to offer was $10,000, and it was Sevendust will come play for you, do a private show. And Steph and I had said we wanted to cap our stuff at $10,000 for, we didn't want to do this huge blown out wedding. So,
right.
And when I saw that, she and I actually for about 2 weeks, we're really having a solid discussion of going, what if we made, what if we spent our $10,000 on Sevendust and just made our wedding reception a potluck? Like, you guys bring something to eat, and we're, and we ended up bailing on it because we're like, family and people who aren't into that, like, wouldn't get it. And
Right.
but man, oh man, like, looking back, if we would have had an extra, like if somebody like family gifted us $10,000, I think I would have done our reception and then had Sevendust, like here's your 10, and have Sevendust play for like an hour and a half afterwards. Like, that would have been the best thing ever.
Oh, I mean, Clint can learn the chicken dance and YMCA and stuff like that.
Oh my God. But yeah, so yeah, if you guys haven't heard Southside Double Wide Acoustic live by Sevendust, that is just a phenomenal record.
Another good one. Discuss Metal Joe, Clint's solo album. I actually listened to this a few times. This Hello Demons Meet Skeletons. Have you heard that?
Yes, I have.
Very, very cool. I love the stuff on that. Very cool.
Doesn't he have a second one out? I think he's got a second one.
That I don't know. I'm not sure on that, but very cool album. I like the vocals on it for sure.
Okay. So yeah, so there's Sevendust.
We also have a
right.
side chat going on, Chastity Crowley, about making certain Norwegian dishes, I guess.
Well, I did that on purpose because I was talking about making Italian,
I know.
and then Chastity said that she cooks Norwegian stuff, and Johan Alexanderson asked, "What dish are you cooking, Chastity?" I'm Swedish, so they're talking about food. Like, hey, what the hell, man? Like,
I just love how we got this going on the side. This is hilarious.
But dude, talking into infinity, bringing people together. So, but yeah, so let's get to Wolfgang Van Halen. First of all, at some point, I'd like to do a deep dive into the second Mammoth record because it is absolutely killer. And him live, he's amazing. And he did make mention of the fact on stage, he's like, Cleveland, what's up? I did one of my very first solo shows here. And I told you, I was all butthurt because at the time he announced his first solo tour, Cleveland was supposed to be the very first show. So it was supposed to be his very first headlining performance, and I was going to be there. Well, then all of a sudden, like 2 months later, he announced like 2 shows before that. I was like, God damn it. Like, there goes that. It's kind of like, I forget, I think it was 2005, Anthrax, when they got back together with Joey Belladonna and Dan Spitz, they announced Chicago as the first show, and they were gonna record the DVD. And so me and my brother bought tickets, and then at the last minute they booked the Starland Ballroom in New Jersey. We're gonna do it there like a couple days before, and I was like, God damn it! So I've been screwed twice. So
Nice.
But yeah. So anyway, Wolfgang live is is album perfect. And I mean, the backing vocals are incredible. He's got 3 guitar players. Ronnie Ficcaro's playing bass. He's got Garrett Whitlock on drums, and it's the sound is unbelievable. Like, it's album perfect, but it's still got that live energy. They're not just standing there like statues, and it was really cool for me because my wife, obviously I listen to similar things over and over, on our road trips and stuff. And she says all the time, you're going to ruin Van Halen for me because you listen to Van Halen all the time. And I really don't, because I know that annoys her, but apparently it's been enough to where it pisses her off. And Mammoth is kind of the same thing. And she did see Wolfgang live. It was like 2 years ago because he was the opener for Guns N' Roses in Detroit when we went to see Guns N' Roses at Comerica Park. And she thought he was wasn't moving around a lot. Like, you're in a baseball stadium, so it's hard to get the vibe of the live show. And she was like, yeah, it's cool, whatever. Well, the other night she got it. She was floored by how good his voice was. She loved watching Ronnie Ficcaro play bass. She didn't realize that Frank Sidoris, his one of his 2 guitar players, is the guy who plays for Slash, and Frank is from Cleveland. Yep. And she loves Frank. So she didn't know that, and she just lost her mind. I think Wolfgang made an official new fan the other night, which was really cool for me. So that was awesome. And, he's just so goddamn good, man. Like, I mean, both of the records are absolutely fan-fucking-tastic. And live, like, I can't think of a band that I've ever seen that does their material more accurately live without losing the feel of a live show than Wolfgang does, which is really, really cool. And he's got a really cool stage presence to him. Like, he plays his stuff, and he doesn't move around a ton, but his banter between songs, you can tell he's just a fucking dude. And I think I think I alluded to this or said it outright earlier in the show. The fact that he opened the show and wasn't pushing to be like, hey man, I'm Eddie's son and I'm playing with Metallica, this, that, and I should be higher up on the bill. The fact that he's like, yeah, dude, I'll jerk the curtain. Like, that just shows like the lack of ego that he's got. And that is like so appealing to me. I've said it many times on the show that when musicians have attitudes, it makes me just really dislike them. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was your first time seeing Wolfgang live, correct?
Yeah, a lot of people say, "Oh, they sounded just like the album." That term is thrown around. I mean, for one of the few times you actually made a couple good points. I didn't. I was going to write them
Nice.
down. I don't know what they were, but no. I mean, Forget sounded like the album. I thought the album was actually playing up there. I mean, that's how crystal clear, especially vocally, and whoever they had doing the mix. I mean, they made the mix sound like, almost like you kind of said it still had a live feel to it, but I thought the mix damn near sounded like they were playing the CD through the speakers up there. I mean,
right.
And I don't mean that in a bad way at all. I mean, his voice was just crystal clear. The harmonies were just dead on. I mean, and that's another thing to talk about. There's all three of these bands, to go back. It's just, other than Angel's Son, which they have those strings, which they never bring out a string, symphony for that or whatever, unless maybe when they were doing the acoustic stuff. But everything else is 100% basically performed live. It's all guitars. There's no keyboards or anything. There's definitely no backing vocals. But yeah, man. I mean, if you closed your eyes and you thought they were playing the CD, you'd have no idea.
Yeah.
I just don't think you really would. And it's, like I said, people can say, they sound just like the album, and and you could do a great performance of the songs, and they come across great live. But I mean, this is literally like I couldn't even tell the difference. I mean, I don't know. It was almost scary in a way. It was like it was kind of frightening. Like, this is almost surreal. Like how good he is as a singer, especially. I mean, I don't know, man. I mean, he's just settled into this niche of what he does, and it's just I guess I'll call it a pop hard rock, song craft master. I mean,
pop heavy guitar rock. Yeah, I would completely agree with you.
Yeah, it kind of settles in that Foo Fighters with some more melody. If you want to throw in band, I hear a lot of Jane's Addiction and the way his vocals soar above. It's a different style of singing, but the way his vocals soar above some of those riffs, and I hear some Smashing Pumpkins in those riffs, bands like Lit and stuff. The one thing I really don't ever hear in anything except for like one or two songs where he has those breakdowns and he'll do the tapping is Van Halen.
Yeah,
that's like the only time you ever hear that, and that's great because that's how it kind of should be. I don't know, man. He's just turned into, I don't know if he's the guy that's ever gonna. He's probably never going to sell out a 20,000 seat arena, and he's not going to sell 40 million albums, but he's going to tour for the next 25 years,
Yeah.
and maybe he will start filling 2,500 seaters or something. I don't know. I mean, he's good enough, song wise and performance wise, and there's zero ego, and he does it strictly for the love of music, and now probably a lot of it's probably, borderline therapeutic for him,
Yeah. Well, and I love that you say that, because one of the things that I love is that, like, when it was announced that he was doing this project, like we'd heard for years about Wolfgang's solo record, and we always kind of thought it's gonna be this one-off thing. It's like Wolfgang, whatever, Eddie's gonna help him do it. But then when all the details were released, it's like, no, it's like it's an actual band, and he wrote the songs, and Eddie did not do anything on it. I caught a lot of shit from all my friends because, as I've said many times on the show, all my friends joke around with me that if it doesn't start with Van and end with theater, John doesn't like it, like, so everyone said, oh, of course, John's going to like it. It's his name is Van Halen. John's going to like it. Well, when, Distance came out, I was like, oh my God, this song is amazing. And then, Don't Back Down and, the other two singles, like the shit is really good. And so like, it was awesome for me because I'm like, okay, now I don't have to catch shit because everybody else is like, okay, this is actually good. And so the fact that, the music is good is awesome. But also the fact that, we hate to, just call a spade here. But, Van Halen was known for not doing anything forever. And I was really worried after Wolfgang's debut that I was like, okay, this is really good. And he toured behind it and, got on all these different things. And I really hope this is not going to be like, okay, like 6 years, 7 years from now, I'll put out another record. And here he is like 2 years later, and he said like he wants to, tour and he wants to write music, and you nailed it because it's exactly what he said. Like he does it for the love of music. He wants to do this, Look at this, Kale. So Kale wanted to know if they opened with Mammoth, and I said yes. They opened with Mammoth and then went into Epiphany. He says, then the show kind of would have sucked for me. That's my favorite song, so the whole rest of the show would have been playing catch-up for me. No, Kale, it would not. Believe me. It was kick-ass. Discuss Metal Joe, Joseph Wren, couldn't agree more. He says, the first Mammoth album is very close to perfect. Yes, it is.
I was mad we did not get Think It Over. That's my favorite song on there.
Dude,
I love that song.
I am so glad you mentioned that because I think I told
So
you.
bummed.
Didn't I tell you? I was like, dude, if I get Think It Over live, that'll be worth my $60 ticket just with that one song.
It's gonna be my Count of Tuscany.
Yeah, exactly.
Your Count of Tuscany. Well, we didn't get Mr. Ed either.
Well, that one I kind of understand.
Love that song.
Dude, it's but there's so many bangers that you could put in that show.
Well, he probably figures he wore that out on the first album too, or so.
Well, because that was the show opener for the whole first run. Think It Over. I can almost guarantee we're gonna get when he does the headlining run later in the year.
Oh yeah, well he's gonna have to because he doesn't have enough songs.
Well, he's got 2 records worth, and it's like, but he's been on record many times as saying that Think It Over is Eddie's favorite song. So
yeah,
and I think and correct me if I'm wrong here, but he did kind of with the exception of playing Distance, which I will listen to that song forever and ever. It's, dude, crucify me all you want. The music video for Distance is the greatest music video that was ever created. With the exception of playing Distance, he really leaned into the heavier side of his catalog to try and fit in a little better with Sevendust and Alter Bridge, which I thought they did, and even to the point where I forget what, I think it was the 3rd or 4th song they played. Remember they did that really percussive, like super heavy outro, and they did that for like a good minute and a half, and then it just stopped. And people went nuts, and he walks up to the mic and he goes, "See, we got the fucking metal stuff too."
yeah.
So that was awesome. Discuss Metal Joe. Circles? No, they did not play Circles.
Yeah, we didn't get that one.
Yeah, no.
Well, while we're on this topic, I want to propose something.
Okay.
The name of this band is Deceased Ancient Elephant Ancestor, right?
For the love of God.
No. Now hear me out. But there's no WVH, and WVH is not affiliated with this project whatsoever. What happens in that world? That's just what I'm curious of.
Wait a minute. Okay, so, all right, your joke aside, are you saying if the band's only called Mammoth and not Mammoth WVH?
No, I'm actually saying this exact same band with these exact same songs, and Wolfgang Van Halen has nothing to do with it. It's some new dude down the street, from whatever, or some guy from whoever that's a YouTube sensation.
Wow.
Not even that. I just throw it out there. I'm just curious. That's all I'm saying.
So exact same music, 2 records, but it's just like, some band
Bill,
called
Bill
like
Jones.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh wow. That is an incredible question. All right, man. Okay, I hate to say this. I don't think it would be as popular, only because I don't think that Bill Jones would get on the high profile tours
Yeah.
like Wolfgang is. And granted, I'm sure there's a buy-on aspect to the whole thing.
Sure.
But I think it would be a very underground thing, because I think people that did discover it would be like, holy shit. Well, and here, Johan Alexanderson, Bill Jones would be even better. Nice. Yeah, I think it would be one of those underground things that people would really latch onto. I think it would still have popularity because of the quality of the music. I also think that there would be fans that would get into it that aren't getting into it right now because it has the Van Halen name. If you go on VanHalenNewsDesk.com, VHND.com, and I hate to recommend that you go into the comment section, because the David Lee Roth fans in that comment section are the biggest bunch of cocksuckers on the fucking planet, and I hate them, and I wish them all nothing but car crashes and bad luck. Go ahead and sue me for saying that. A lot of people in that comment section, they won't listen to Wolfgang. It's not Eddie. He's riding Eddie's coattails. The music isn't good. And if you took the Van Halen name off it and just said, "Hey, check out this cool like heavy pop, like Don't Back Down," or Another Celebration at the End of the World, songs like that,
Yeah.
they'd probably be like, "Oh, this is cool, man. This is really cool." So it wouldn't be as big because it doesn't have the name, and they wouldn't have the tours that they're getting. But I do think there would still be an audience because the music is of such high quality.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, and someone else would, you might be a good example, and Kale could talk about this. You guys in the chat, let us know. I'm a bad one to think about this, because I'm trying to think of another new band, a modern band that is that. God damn it, Joe.
This is putting it mildly. So you're a bad one for this.
But is there another modern band that has two records that are this catchy, this well written, like this powerful? I mean, my wife likes a band called Plush. They're all a bunch of 21-year-old women, I should say. I was about to call girls, but I'm 47. What the hell do you want from me? 21-year-old women, and it's heavy and catchy and stuff. And I think about that. But even stuff like Greta Van Fleet and Dirty Honey, like modern rock bands, even though those are kind of throwback styles. I mean, is there another band or bands out there where the music is this fucking good? And again, I'm not one to ask, because I wouldn't know my ass from a hole in the ground. So it's an honest question.
I would say, in terms of doing this very melodic kind of pop rock, whatever we decided to call it, pop hard rock, there's not a lot out there that what I've heard. A good comparison, and one of his idols are the Foo Fighters, but they don't have near the melody, that sense of. And they're not trying to, Dave just kind of does whatever Dave wants to do, which is fine. But so anyway, I'll go back to something you said earlier too. This is sort of my devil's advocate to go against this notion I just proposed, and it's kind of like you said. So we started hearing about this Mammoth stuff, I don't know, 2016, 2017. Would pop up on Blabbermouth or whatever, and I just thought it was literally okay, this dumb punk kid, son of Van, he's just trying to get his name on social media, so they're just going to splash. I literally thought that this was just going to be. I'm almost going to use a LeBron James example, coming from Cleveland, getting drafted by the Cavs. That could have just went so wrong so many ways. What I mean? Driving a Hummer in high school, being handed the keys to basically, the NBA, But all the guy ever did was work. You can hate LeBron all you want, but all the guy ever did was bust his ass, to win for the most part, right? And that's kind of how I feel about this Wolfgang Mammoth stuff. I never thought in a million years that this would turn into what it has. I was just skeptical. I mean, I don't know what it was based on. It's just probably just because it never happens.
Right. Well, dude, all right, so I'm going to put you in solo here for a minute. Like, because I don't think you and I have ever talked about this before. So, I mentioned before that, for me, like, I figured I would like it. I'm a Van Halen honk, okay? But when I saw the video for Distance and I heard the song, I was like, oh my God, this is really, really good. So I knew I was like predisposed to liking it, and then the other singles came out, whatever. But you had a much more honest kind of outlook because you were okay. You just kind of talked about it, like okay, it's just going to be some goofy solo project. So talk a little bit about your first reactions to that first record.
Well, we'll start with the single, and I'll push back on the Distance being a great quote song. I think it's extremely simplistic, but I love the message behind it. The video was very, very powerful, and I love the tribute to his dad. And you almost borderline start crying at the end of that video. But that song to me does absolutely no representation or justice to when Mr. Ed kicks in, and then when you get to Epiphany, and when you get to stuff like Think It Over, and I don't think they're even in the same ballpark. I mean, and I'm kind of trying to figure out sort of where the songwriting part on the Distance came from, just because it does seem, and I'm fine with simple and whatever, but I just think, man, it's just such a huge drop off, and not much happens in the song, and that's okay. Songs can do that, but man, you just hear the stuff that's going on in all the rest of these songs, and the killer harmonies and the killer melodies, and there's way more, different things going on with the guitars and the riffs in general. And when I started digging into that first album, I was just, you just kind of keep going to the next song. You're like, okay, well, maybe the next one's not going to be as good. Okay, well, maybe the next thing you know, your 45 minutes is up, and you've listened to this just freaking great pop hard rock masterpiece that, I'll kind of agree with you. I don't know, neither one of us is great on newer stuff coming out, especially you, but I'm not going to say that I'm all over it either. But, I don't know, a band like the Struts maybe is something kind of similar, They do a lot of cool hard rock and great melodies and stuff. But I don't know, man. This was just like super, super ear candy, make you feel good, make you feel happy, and you're still kind of rocking. And it's so, we've talked before, I think it's the most difficult kind of music to make that still has a little bit of balls to it. Still makes you feel good, but you still feel like you're kind of rocking. You know what I mean? It's just, It's not easy to do.
Well, it's like it's that's why like a lot of the really heavy stuff, like I can't really get into. Like Pantera is basically the only band that pretty much is all screaming vocals. Like, and granted, there's melodic vocals to Pantera, we all know that, but like that's the only really like heavy band that's based around that scream vocal thing that I can really get into, because there is that melody to it. Right. And all the rest of it kind of gets repetitious to me. It's like, okay, how many times can you play like a chug riff? How many times can you play like a speed riff? Like it kind of blends together. But Wolfgang infuses a little bit of that heaviness with a lot of melody, and I think it kind of like fans of different genres can really get into it. And especially when you get to the choruses, like he's got a knack for these choruses that's just unbelievable. I mean, it's just so catchy, like pretty much everything. The only, like if there was a song, and I can't really say anything off the new record yet because I'm still digesting it. I've listened to it a bunch, but I'm still really getting into it. But on the first record, I mean, if there's a skip song, it would be, I think it's called Feel. It's got kind of the crazy drum parts in it, but it's near the end of the record, and it was actually I think the fourth single that he put out for it, and that one I was like, yeah, okay. But right. The rest of the album, I was with you. I was like, holy shit, like, because again, Distance and Don't Back Down, and the other why am I drawing a blank on that third single? It's Don't Back Down and the other one, but anyway, I loved it, and so when I got the full record, I was like, oh man. Like, I hope the rest of it's this cool. And we talked about Foo Fighters, and Cale mentioned that Foo Fighters and Mammoth would be a great, touring package. And I would bet a lot of money on the fact that will happen, by the way. But Foo Fighters for me, like I love the radio single, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna try and get into Foo Fighters. So I listened to records of theirs, and the radio singles were cool, and the not radio singles were shit. I just don't like anything that wasn't on the radio by Foo Fighters. I was like, what the hell is this? Like, and it breaks my heart because I love Dave Grohl. He is like the coolest motherfucker ever, and it's like, if there's a guy that I wish I could get into his music, it'd be him. So with when the first Mammoth record came out, I was like, okay, like, man, please don't be that record where you release the 3 or 4 good songs and the rest is, well, the record opens with Mr. Ed, and I'm like, well, this kind of kicks ass.
Slightly.
Yeah, exactly. And as you said, it just keeps going and going. You're like, oh my God, like, what the hell? Like, it's so damn good. And it also, like, and this is like for music nerds like you and me, but also especially like Van Halen honk like me, the little nuggets that he releases saying what equipment he used and he did this, that, and the other, like I think it was I'm All Right, the new single, like the wah pedal, his uncle Pat Bertinelli, that he talks about all the time. It's like basically one of his favorite people on the planet. Actually worked the wah pedal while he was recording it. So there's little things like that. But also, Take a Bow, for those of you guys that are fans of Wolfgang and don't know this, or even if you're not a fan, check out the solo. The solo in Take a Bow is fabulous. But the solo is played on all of Eddie's vintage gear. It's the Frankenstrat, it's the Marshall head, it's the Marshall cabinets, it's the everything. And it's, it blends in with the rest of the record perfectly. But when you know that, if you listen to that solo closely, you can hear the warmth of that Frankenstrat. It's really, really freaking cool, man. And he has all those sorts of things all over the record. I think it was it on Mr. Ed that he used the little shitty cardboard Casio keyboard that from Fair Warning Eddie played Sunday Afternoon in the Park on. I think it's in Mr. Ed. Yeah. So he used that, so he busts out some of Eddie's vintage gear and just puts these little Van Halen nuggets in for fans like me, and it's just so cool. And then the music is so goddamn good, and he's humble about it, and he's cool about it, and I'm just gonna, I'll say it again. I don't care if I beat this dead horse forever. First of all, number one, it's so unfair to me that Ted Nugent is alive and Eddie Van Halen's gone. That is, I hate that. But it just, whenever I see Wolfgang, there will forever be this little bit of sadness in there, because I'm like, it's so good, and like Eddie, never got to see what it's become and hear the second record, and and also, I mean, dude, that there would have been a Van Halen tour with Mammoth opening. Could you imagine seeing a Van Halen show with Mammoth opening? Like, I mean, for me, my head would have exploded, first of all. But it just sucks that never got to come to pass. It's because the music is so good. And I tell you what, man, another thing I always think of, like, what the hell are in those Van Halen jeans? Yeah. That's incredible. Like, I wonder, like Eddie's dad, Jan Van Halen, like, I want to know what his dad did. Like, was that guy like the world's like preeminent tuba player? Like, did he play every single instrument in a brass orchestra or something, like in the 1800s or something? I don't know, man. Like,
yeah, I don't know what kind of pants he wore. But,
well played. So, all right, before we get out of here, obviously, I'd like to do a deep dive into both of the records. Joseph Wren, our good buddy, Discuss Metal Joe, hit me up, and we are going to be doing a deep dive into some Mammoth stuff on his show, Discuss Metal. So that'll be forthcoming.
By we, do you mean just you?
I don't need you. You take off whenever you want. You've taken off like 3 shows in the last 3 months.
I'm not going to take off if I get to go on Joe's show again. I'll be all over that.
Well, I banned you. No, but yeah, dude, you want to jump on? Let's do it, because Joe wants to do some Mammoth stuff. So
I just got a text from Joe. He'd rather have me than you. Okay, thanks, Joe.
Probably. Look at this. All right, he says. Joe says, Brian, you can come.
Sweet.
So real quick, just, impressions of the new Mammoth record. I mean, we obviously haven't gotten to really get into it. It hasn't been even been out a week, but
Yeah, I've only heard. I'll full disclosure. I've only heard this single so far, so I have not dove into it. I'm still kind of at a high off of all the show and everything, and I really want to have some time to just totally dive into this.
Right. Okay.
But, so yeah, I'll be honest.
All right. So I'll give you my impressions. I first listened to it on the way home from my gig last Thursday. It was the night that the record came out, so it had basically been out for an hour. I love it. I need to, there's parts that I first listened to. I was like, all right, I got to go back and listen to that. It's like, do I like it? Do I not like it? It's interesting. Like the opening song, it's called "Right" with question marks. I was like, okay, well, that's an interesting choice for an opener. But it's, you know what? Like after listening to it, and I listened to it a second time, and this is going to sound really stupid, and it's the best analogy that I can make. And granted, I'm a Van Halen guy, so please, everyone, take this with a grain of salt if I'm fanboying. It really feels like to me, Van Halen 1 and Van Halen 2.
I knew that was coming.
Well, but you know what though? It really does, because it's like a continuation of the first record. And whereas the first record is like basically perfect, the second record is damn near there. And it's like, okay, if you threw the songs from both records into a blender and just made one continuous record, it would all fit together perfectly. And it reminded me of that back to back. And again, it is a Van Halen fanboy thing, but it's the thing I can relate to the most. So, man, it is unbelievable. And even the singles, like when they came out, like I really enjoyed them. I can't say that I was like blown away like I was the first time around, but as I've listened to them more, I'm blown away. So I love it, man. I am so happy that the record was great. Like I was really nervous, because he spent like a good 5, 6, 7 years working on the first record. So of course, like every little nuance can be perfected when you go back to it that many times,
Sure.
But this one he wrote much more like a normal record. He wrote it while he was on tour. He wrote it, he worked on it when he was off tour for a minute and everything. So it was much more how a quote unquote normal band would do it, and it still turned out amazing. So it just, I was so happy to hear that, because I just really didn't want him to be a one-trick pony and a one-hit wonder, and so it's awesome.
I will say this, having only heard the singles, I agree in that you would almost think that they were, I don't want to say leftover tracks, but off of the, you could tell that they're very similar feel to the first album, and that's kind of how it should be, right? But one thing, notice, I just looked at the album here. Okay, this is something that like 5 million bands could do. 10 songs, 48 minutes. That's all we need.
Yeah.
Unless you're Dream Theater, do what you want, right?
Yeah.
But like I'll just go into even like the new Sevendust. I don't know how many are on there. I'm gonna assume a lot, but I don't know, man. I just, some of these bands and these albums, and it's like, okay, the new Alter Bridge, 10 songs, 53 minutes, 37 seconds. That's not horrible. But they've done some in the past where they're throwing 14 songs on an album, and I don't know. I just think, just give me your best 9 to 12 songs. I don't need any more than that. 10 is perfect. 10 is perfect. 45 to 52 minutes or whatever. Like, that's the sweet spot, I think, for anyone, just for success in general and getting people to stay engaged and to keep going back to it, right? You can have your concept albums and whatnot and this and that and your Dream Theater and your super long prog things you do, whatever. But I don't know, the bands like this that are in this rock, kind of hard rock vein, there's a lot of them, of the older bands, that they'll get back together and they'll put out a new album, and it's like, man, there's 4 too many songs on this at least.
Yeah. No, I agree. And a perfect example, we talked about Miles Kennedy earlier, the Slash albums. Man,
Yeah,
The
there's
last-
a lot of songs on there.
Yeah, the last couple is just like, man, you could easily cut 5 tunes off of this. I could not agree with you more. 10 minutes and 10 songs and 45 minutes is basically, I think, the sweet spot.
Yeah.
You know, I think that is a perfect amount. It's you're into it, you're not thinking it's short, and right as you're like, this rocks. Oh my God! Like, okay, I kind of want to hit stop. The album's over. You know.
We don't need to relive our 72 seasons episode, but Metallica, I'm talking to you.
Yeah. Right.
Megadeth, I'm talking to you. I think there's like 14 on that last one or whatever it was.
Yeah, like let's pick and choose here. Like, yeah, I think 10 is perfect. I think 10 is absolutely perfect. You know, man, it's like you said, it's like perfect song length. It's not, you know, there some songs are longer than others, but it's not obnoxiously long. And then there's a couple that are a little shorter. Like it all balances out so well. And you know, I mean, you had said a minute ago, like it sounded like, you know, might be leftovers from the first record. Like it sounded that way. It's like they're not, but I don't know, man. Like it kind of does, but I think you can hear the advancement in the songwriting, and he definitely added some stuff to the mix, which I think totally worked, because all the melody that you would expect from the first record is there, and there's the mellow moments and there's the powerful moments and stuff. But he did add some different things that weren't there, so it was pretty cool.
I probably phrased that wrong. I wasn't
Phrased.
Yeah, phrased that wrong.
Put your teeth back in it and say that again. I phrased that wrong.
Hey, I still got some stuff stuck in there from my supper, as Chris Aiken said.
Right.
No, what I was trying to say is, I don't know. I guess if they showed up as bonus tracks, you wouldn't be shocked. But they had plenty of the same vibe. Let's just put it that way.
Yes, and I if you love the first record, I think if you don't love the second record, you'd be close to loving it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's excellent. I can't wait to dig into it. Like I'm waiting until I really have time to, like, you know, my favorite thing to do to listen to a new record is to drive through our metro parks, and just like I'm in nature. I'm just listening to, you know, as loud as I possibly can, just really feeling it. Like. And I haven't had a chance to do that yet. So I really can't wait to do that with it. And that'll probably be in a couple weeks here. So, well, one last comment I would like to address is Kale's. And this is about Slash. He says, the last 2 Slash albums sucked. Didn't need to do anything after World on Fire, but that was 17 odd songs. Yeah, Kale. 17 songs is too much on World on Fire. The last 2 Slash albums didn't suck, but they didn't grab me like, you know, Apocalyptic Love and World on Fire. Those were absolutely killer records. So yeah, I can't say they suck, Kale, but they weren't nearly what the, you know, previous 2 were. And to close out, we have a chat comment section or a chat comment thread, I should say, going. Chastity Crawley says we need to schedule the Octavarium in the Octagon episode, and she's not wrong. She says we should do it in October. The Octavarium in the Octagon in October. So I think that's a good idea. We'll have to schedule that. I know you said you don't want any part of that, Brian. So there's another night you can take off and bail on your own show.
Well, as long as I still get paid what I'm getting paid now, that's all that matters.
Nice. Yeah, I really want to do that. Honestly, Chastity and Kale, I have to coordinate schedules with Adam Rishog and our buddy Sean Faust, so that, you know, everybody can get on. I really want to do that one because I just want to see how that goes down with people battling over the song Octavarium, an entire episode over a 24-minute song. That is just going to be kick-ass. If that doesn't scream Dream Theater podcast, I don't know what does. So that's going to be a damn good episode, I think. So as soon as we get that book, Brian, I will let you know so you can take the night off.
All right.
But well, hey everyone, that's going to do it for us here tonight on Talking Into Infinity. Guys, we can't thank you enough for tuning in. Cale McLeish, Discuss Metal Joe, Chastity Crawley, Mike L. To answer your question in front of everybody, yes, you are a regular, my friend. Obviously, we had Johan Alexanderson. Great to see you again, man. Our first timer, Tom Rister, thank you for tuning in. Hopefully we see you again. And all you guys who are subscribers on YouTube, thank you very much. We appreciate it. If you are not subscribed on YouTube, just click that like button, click that subscribe button, and smash that notification bell. That way you get notified every time we go live. Don't forget you can download audio versions of the podcast. So just go to all of your favorite podcast platforms, and we're everywhere you could possibly find us. So check that out. We are going to be right back here in 2 weeks. It will be Thursday, August 24th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we've got some pretty good stuff in the works. We're not sure what we're doing that episode, but Brian, I have a lead on a few things that even you don't know about that if they come to fruition, it should draw a few eyes to our podcast. So we'll see what happens.
I'm intrigued. There's a lot I don't know about, like basically everything. So that's not narrowing it down.
Well, we've got a lot of great episode ideas coming up. Like I said, we've got the Octavarium, Octavarium in the Octagon we want to do. We still have not done our, 2-part episode, the deep dive into the Astonishing. We've got that to do with our buddy Robert Husted. Obviously, we've got the big fan hangout coming at the end of the year in December. I don't have my calendar in front of me, so I forget what day that's going to be. But we've got that coming up. So a lot of great stuff. We still haven't done our Metallica deep dives. And you and I came up with an idea the other day. I can't believe we never thought of this, but we've ranked the albums. We've ranked a number of different things. So we thought, what if we took each record and ranked the songs on the album? So we're going to actually go into each album and rank the songs from, what we feel is, worst to first.
Did we ever do our actual full album ranking show?
We have not.
Okay. So
We have
all right,
not.
that's what I thought. You said we ranked the albums, but
I was setting up a tease, so thanks for shitting on my moment. But
I'm saying we did something we didn't, but hang on.
I was building up to something, and you just completely stepped on my moment. So
dynamite drop in, Monty.
Nice.
Nobody gets that reference but me and you and Bob if he's on.
Right. So, but yeah, guys, we got a ton of great stuff coming up. As the banner said at the bottom of the screen, if you guys have a show idea for us, just hit us up at talkingintoinfinity@gmail.com. And guys, we seriously cannot thank you enough for the support. We love doing the show. This is our 65th episode. It'll be, God, what is it, like 3 years coming up, Brian, isn't it? Like something like that. We've been doing this, so
damn.
Wow. Yeah, it's awesome, and we really appreciate you guys. We still have a blast doing it, and hopefully you guys enjoy the bonus content, little things I throw up there after shows and stuff. Brian, like if you ever, just jump on the StreamYard and do that. Like after Alter Bridge, you should have jumped on and given your opinion, but you could definitely do that. And guys, real quick, I was about to get out of here, but I have to answer Chastity Crawley's question. I need to find the Astonishing novel. If it's still on Amazon, Chastity, I'm almost positive it's on there. I've got a couple copies of it. I've got the one I bought, and then also the one that Peter O'Rulian sent to me, the autographed version. But I know I got mine on Amazon, so it's definitely available there. So check that out. But so thanks for tuning in to another episode, guys. Talking Into Infinity. We appreciate you. We love you, and we will see you in 2 weeks on Thursday, August 24th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And as always, until then, guys, Carpe Diem.